The turkey was perfect. Golden brown, crispy skin, the kind of bird that would make Norman Rockwell weep with patriotic joy. I carved it with surgical precision, while my wife Lisa chatted with her sister Karen about some legal case that was apparently going to change everything for their firm. My 7-year-old son Tommy was building a fortress out of dinner rolls, and for exactly 37 seconds, I thought we might actually have a normal Christmas. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. That's when Lisa stood up, wine glass in hand, wearing that smile I'd learned to fear over our 10 years of marriage. The one that meant someone was about to get screwed, and it usually wasn't her. "Before we eat," she announced, her voice carrying that courtroom authority that made junior associates wet themselves, "I have a special gift for my husband." She reached under her chair and pulled out a small wrapped box. My stomach dropped. Lisa wasn't the surprise gift type. She was the, "Here's your birthday card I bought at the gas station" type. "Go ahead, Danny," she said, sliding the box across the table. "Open it." Karen was filming with her phone, which should have been my second warning. The first was that predatory gleam in Lisa's eyes, the same look she got when she was about to destroy some poor bastard in court. I unwrapped the box slowly, my mechanic's hands suddenly clumsy. Inside was a DNA test kit from one of those ancestry websites, still sealed. Underneath it was a manila envelope. "Read the letter," Lisa said sweetly. "Out loud." My hand shook as I opened the envelope. The letterhead was from GeneTech Labs. The words swam in front of my eyes, but the important parts hit like sledgehammers. Probability of paternity: 0%. Daniel Mitchell is excluded as the biological father. The room went silent except for the sound of my world collapsing. Tommy was still playing with his rolls, oblivious to the nuclear bomb his mother had just detonated. "Surprise," Lisa said, her voice dripping with mock sweetness. "Tommy isn't yours, and according to Massachusetts law, I'm entitled to half of everything. The house, the shop, your savings account that you think I don't know about. Merry Christmas, honey." Karen was still filming, her face lit up with vicious glee. This wasn't just about destroying me, this was entertainment for them. "You see," Lisa continued, settling back into her chair like she was delivering closing arguments, "I've been feeling trapped in this marriage for years, stuck with a grease monkey who smells like motor oil and thinks Olive Garden is fine dining, but Marcus makes me feel alive again." Marcus, her law partner, the pretentious asshole with the BMW who always looked at me like I was something he'd scraped off his Italian leather shoes. "We've been together for 2 years, she said casually, cutting herself a piece of turkey. "And yes, he's Tommy's father. I'm moving out next week and I'll be generous. You can have supervised visits with the boy you've been raising. Though I suppose he's not really your boy anymore, is he?" The rage was building in my chest like steam in a boiler, but underneath it was something else. Something cold and calculating. Because Lisa had made one crucial mistake. She assumed I was as stupid as she'd always told me I was. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out my phone. "That's funny," I said, my voice steady despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. "You should check your email." Lisa frowned, but she pulled out her iPhone. Her face went from smug to confused to absolutely terrified in the span of about 5 seconds. "What the hell is this?" she whispered. "Divorce papers," I said calmly, carving another slice of turkey. "Filed this morning. Along with evidence of your affair, financial records showing you've been using marital funds to pay for your love nest downtown, and copies of every text message you've sent to Marcus for the past 6 months." Karen stopped filming. Tommy looked up from his roll fortress, sensing the sudden tension. "You see, Lisa, I've known about Tommy for 4 months. Got my own DNA test done back in August when I noticed he had Marcus's weak chin, And your complete lack of moral character. I've been preparing for this moment ever since. I stood up, tossing my napkin onto my plate. I've already moved our joint savings to an account you can't access, transferred the house into my mother's name, and had you served with papers this morning. The process server is probably waiting on your doorstep right now. Lisa's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for air. You can't do this! I'm a lawyer! I know my rights! And I know mine, I said, heading for the door. I also know that adultery affects asset division in Massachusetts, especially when one party has been systematically hiding assets and lying about paternity. But you probably knew that, being such a brilliant attorney and all. I grabbed my jacket from the coat rack and turned back to look at my wife, soon-to-be ex-wife, one last time. Oh, and Lisa, you might want to check your work email too. I sent some very interesting photos to your senior partners. Turns out Marcus has been billing the firm for those long lunch breaks you two have been taking. Partners tend to frown on that kind of thing. I walked out into the snow, leaving behind the wreckage of my marriage and the sound of Lisa screaming at Karen to stop filming and help her figure out what the hell just happened. But this was just the beginning. Lisa wanted to humiliate me in front of family, destroy me publicly, and take everything I'd worked for. She thought she was dealing with some dumb mechanic who would roll over and take it. She was about to learn that this grease monkey had teeth. The next morning, I was under the hood of a 2018 Honda Civic when my best friend Jake walked into Mitchell's auto repair with 2 cups of coffee and a shit-eating grin. So I hear your Christmas dinner was more explosive than a backfiring exhaust pipe, he said, setting a cup on my workbench. Jake owned the boxing gym 3 blocks down and had the kind of face that looked like it had been used as a punching bag for about 30 years, which it had. News travels fast in this town, I muttered, wiping grease off my hands. Your neighbor, Mrs. Patterson, called my gym at 7 this morning asking if I knew why there were police cars at your house. Apparently Lisa was screaming loud enough to wake the dead. I took a sip of coffee. It was strong enough to strip paint, just how I liked it. She tried to claim I stole marital assets, had to explain to Officer Rodriguez that you can't steal your own money from your own account. And the DNA thing? Real as this wrench in my hand. I held up the tool for emphasis. Tommy's not mine. Hasn't been for 7 years, but I only found out 4 months ago. Jake whistled low. That's rough, brother. What's your play? Before I could answer, the bell above my shop door chimed. In walked Marcus Hendricks, looking like he'd stepped out of a men's fashion magazine. Expensive suit, perfect hair, the kind of confident swagger that comes from never having to worry about paying bills. Daniel, he said, his voice carrying that prep school accent that made me want to punch him in the throat. We need to talk. Jake stepped closer to me, his ex-con instincts kicking in. You want me to stay? Nah, I said, not taking my eyes off Marcus. Mr. Hendricks and I are just going to have a friendly conversation about boundaries and consequences. Jake nodded and headed for the door, but not before giving Marcus a look that could melt steel. I'll be at the gym if you need me, Danny. Once we were alone, Marcus straightened his tie and put on what I assumed was his intimidating lawyer face. Look, I know this situation is uncomfortable for everyone involved, but Lisa and I are prepared to be reasonable. We're willing to give you generous visitation rights with Tommy, and Lisa won't pursue alimony if you don't contest the divorce. I set down my coffee and picked up a tire iron, testing its weight in my hands. Marcus took a step back. That's mighty generous of you, Marcus, I said, my voice conversational. Tell me, how long have you been screwing my wife? I don't think that's relevant to 2 years, right? That's what she said yesterday, which means you've been lying to my face every time you came to our house for dinner, every time you shook my hand at school events, every time you played catch with my son in the backyard. Marcus's composure cracked slightly. Danny, I never meant for it to happen this way. Lisa was unhappy and you thought you'd help her out by getting her pregnant and then letting me raise your kid for 7 years while you played daddy on the weekends. We didn't plan for Tommy to happen, Marcus said, his voice getting defensive. It just did. And Lisa thought it would be easier if… I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Easier for who? For you? For her? Because it sure as hell wasn't easier for me, working 60-hour weeks to support a family while you two were playing house on my dime. Marcus straightened his shoulders, trying to regain control of the conversation. The point is, we're prepared to move forward amicably. Lisa is willing to be reasonable about the asset division, and we both think it would be best for Tommy if we could avoid a messy court battle. You know what I think would be best for Tommy? I said, setting down the tire iron and picking up my phone. If he didn't have to grow up knowing his real father is a lying, cheating piece of shit who destroyed another man's family for his own entertainment. I pulled up a video on my phone and turned the screen toward Marcus. His face went white. That's you, isn't it? Coming out of the Riverside Motel last Tuesday afternoon, with my wife, the same motel where you've been meeting twice a week for the past 2 years? Marcus's mouth opened and closed like he was trying to catch flies. How did you get this video? I hired a private investigator 3 months ago. Cost me $2,000, but it was worth every penny. You want to know what else I have? I scrolled through my phone, showing him photo after photo. Pictures of you two at restaurants, hotels, that little apartment downtown that Lisa's been paying for with money from our joint account. Credit card records showing purchases of lingerie and jewelry that I never saw. Text messages that would make a sailor blush. Marcus was sweating now, despite the December cold. What do you want? I want you to understand something very clearly, I said, stepping closer to him. You think you're dealing with some dumb mechanic who's going to roll over and let you take everything I've worked for? But you made a mistake, Marcus. You messed with the wrong family. I pulled up another photo on my phone. This one showed Marcus coming out of a casino in Connecticut, his arm around a blonde who definitely wasn't Lisa. This was taken last month, I said. You remember Jennifer, don't you? Your secretary? The one you've been cheating on my wife with while you were cheating with my wife? I wonder how Lisa would feel knowing she's not the only side piece in your collection. Marcus's face went from white to green. You're bluffing. Am I? I scrolled to another photo. Because I've got about 50 more where that came from, along with hotel receipts, credit card statements, and a very detailed timeline of your extracurricular activities. I put my phone back in my pocket and picked up the tire iron again. Here's what's going to happen, Marcus. You're going to walk out of my shop, get in your fancy BMW, and drive away. You're going to stay away from my family, my business, and my life. And if you even think about trying to take my house or my shop, I'm going to make sure every person in this town knows exactly what kind of man you really are. Marcus backed toward the door, his confidence completely shattered. You can't threaten me. I'm a lawyer. I know my rights. I'm not threatening you, I said calmly. I'm making you a promise. You wanted to play games with my life? Fine, but you're playing in my town now, with my rules. And trust me, you don't want to find out what happens when a grease monkey decides to get his hands dirty. Marcus practically ran out of my shop, leaving behind the smell of expensive cologne and fear. I watched through the window as he fumbled with his car keys, started his BMW, and peeled out of my parking lot like the devil himself was chasing him. I picked up my coffee and took another sip. It was getting cold, but it still tasted like victory. My phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Lisa. We need to talk. Now. I typed back, No, we don't. Talk to my lawyer. But even as I sent the message, I knew this was far from over. Lisa wasn't the type to give up easily, and Marcus had too much to lose to just walk away. They were going to fight back, probably harder than before. Good. I was just getting started. By Wednesday morning, the whole town was buzzing with gossip about my Christmas dinner disaster. I couldn't walk into Murphy's Diner without conversations stopping mid-sentence and heads turning my way. Some people looked at me with pity, others with curiosity, and a few with the kind of schadenfreude that small towns specialize in. I was eating breakfast alone when my phone rang. The caller ID showed my mother's number. "Danny, honey," she said before I could even say hello. "I just got off the phone with Father Mackenzie. He wants to know if you need counseling after your difficult revelation." "What the hell did you tell him?" "I didn't tell him anything, Ma. Lisa's been making the rounds, playing the victim, probably trying to get ahead of the story before it gets worse for her." "Well, she came by the church yesterday with Tommy, crying about how you've become unstable and vindictive since learning about the paternity test. She's telling people you threatened her and Marcus." I laughed, but it came out bitter. "The only thing I threatened was to expose the truth. Apparently that's enough to make them panic." "Good," my mother said firmly. "That woman has been looking down her nose at this family for 10 years. It's about time someone knocked her off her high horse." After breakfast, I drove to Tommy's school for his winter concert. I'd been dreading this moment all week, knowing it would be the first public event where I'd have to face Lisa and the whispers of other parents who'd heard about our situation. I was right to dread it. I walked into the elementary school gymnasium and immediately felt the weight of dozens of stares. Parents who had been friendly to me for years suddenly found their shoes fascinating. Others whispered behind their hands, stealing glances in my direction. Lisa was sitting in the front row with Karen and Marcus, playing the role of the strong single mother. She'd dressed Tommy in a new suit and styled his hair perfectly, creating the picture of a put-together family that didn't include me. I found a seat in the back, trying to ignore the whispers and sideways looks. But when Tommy's class took the stage and he started singing Silent Night with the other kids, something inside me cracked. This little boy who I'd raised, taught to ride a bike, helped with homework, read bedtime stories to, he wasn't mine, genetically anyway. But 7 years of love and care had to count for something. After the concert, I was walking to my truck when I heard my name called. I turned to see Brad Sullivan and Mike Chen, 2 guys I'd considered friends for years. We'd coached Little League together, had barbecues, watched football games. "Danny," Brad said, his voice uncomfortable. "We heard about what happened. That's rough, man." "Yeah," Mike added, not quite meeting my eyes. "But we wanted to talk to you about something." I could tell by their body language that this wasn't going to be a supportive conversation. "Lisa came to see us," Brad continued. "She's worried about Tommy. Says you've been acting erratic, making threats. She thinks you might try to take the boy or do something unstable." "Unstable?" I repeated, feeling my temper rise. "You mean like finding out my wife has been lying to me for 7 years and wanting to protect myself legally?" Mike shifted uncomfortably. "Look, we're not taking sides here. But Lisa's a lawyer, and she knows how these things work. Maybe you should just, I don't know, try to work something out quietly, for Tommy's sake." "For Tommy's sake?" I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Where was this concern for Tommy when his mother was screwing around behind my back? Where was it when she decided to destroy our family for her own entertainment? "That's between you and Lisa," Brad said, "but threatening her and Marcus isn't going to help anything." "I never threatened anyone," I said firmly. "I told them I'd expose the truth if they tried to screw me over in the divorce. That's not a threat. It's a promise." Brad and Mike exchanged a look that told me everything I needed to know. They'd already chosen sides, and it wasn't mine. "Look, Danny," Mike said, "maybe it's better if you don't come to the New Year's party at my place. Just until things cool down. We don't want any drama around the kids." The betrayal hit me like a punch to the gut. These were guys I'd known for 15 years. We'd been through divorces, job losses, family deaths together, and now they were cutting me loose because my wife had convinced them I was some kind of dangerous loose cannon. "You know what?" I said, my voice deadly calm. "You're right. I won't come to your party. In fact, I won't be coming to any of your parties ever again, because apparently 7 years of friendship means less than one conversation with my lying ex-wife." I started to walk away, but Brad called after me. Danny, don't be like this. We're just trying to. I spun around, my patience finally snapping. Trying to what? Help? Where were you when Lisa was humiliating me at Christmas dinner? Where were you when she was stealing money from our joint accounts to pay for her affair? You want to help? Then stop listening to her lies and start thinking for yourselves. She's not lying, Mike said, his voice getting defensive. She showed us the text messages you sent Marcus. Pretty threatening stuff. What text messages? I asked, genuinely confused. Brad pulled out his phone and showed me a screenshot. It was supposedly from my number, sent to Marcus. Stay away from my family or you'll regret it. I know where you live. I stared at the screen in disbelief. I never sent this. Come on, Danny, Mike said. It's from your number. It's easy to fake a text message, I said, but I could tell they didn't believe me. Lisa's a lawyer. She knows how to manipulate evidence. Or maybe you sent it and forgot, Brad suggested. You've been under a lot of stress. That's when I realized what was happening. Lisa wasn't just trying to win the divorce. She was trying to destroy my reputation, turn my friends against me, and isolate me completely. She was playing a game I didn't even know we were playing. You know what, guys? I said, putting my hands up in surrender. Believe whatever you want. But when the truth comes out, and it will, remember this conversation. Remember how quick you were to throw away 15 years of friendship based on lies from a woman who's been cheating on her husband for 2 years. I walked away, leaving them standing in the school parking lot. As I drove home, I realized that Lisa had been smarter than I'd given her credit for. She wasn't just playing defense. She was on the offensive, turning people against me before I could tell my side of the story. But she'd made one crucial mistake. She thought I was fighting this battle alone. I pulled out my phone and called Jake. I need a favor, I said when he answered. And it's going to get dirty. I'm listening, he said. How do you feel about doing a little detective work? Because I think it's time Lisa learned that two can play the manipulation game. Jake chuckled. Now you're talking my language. The next few days were a blur of strategic planning and careful execution. Jake and I spent hours at his gym, not just working out, but plotting Lisa's downfall with the precision of a military operation. You sure about this? Jake asked as we reviewed our plan for the third time. Once we do this, there's no going back. She fired the first shot when she humiliated me at Christmas dinner, I said, wrapping my hands before hitting the heavy bag. Everything after that is just self-defense. The plan was elegant in its simplicity. Lisa had been using her legal connections and social manipulation to turn people against me, but she'd forgotten one crucial thing. I'd lived in this town my entire life. I knew everyone, and more importantly, everyone knew me. Phase 1 started Thursday morning when I paid a visit to Detective Ray Morrison, a guy I'd gone to high school with who now worked for the local police department. Danny Mitchell, he said with a grin when I walked into the station. I heard you've been having some domestic troubles. That's actually why I'm here, I said, sitting down across from his desk. I need to report some suspicious activity. Ray's expression got serious. What kind of activity? I pulled out my phone and showed him the fake text messages that Brad and Mike had seen. Someone's been sending threatening messages from a number that appears to be mine. I never sent these, Ray. Someone's trying to frame me. Ray examined the screenshots carefully. You think your wife is behind this? I think someone with legal knowledge and access to technology is trying to make me look unstable and dangerous, I said diplomatically. I just want it on record that I'm not sending these messages. Ray nodded and started typing up a report. We'll look into it. In the meantime, do you have any proof you didn't send these? I smiled and pulled out a second phone. I've been recording all my phone activity since Christmas. Every call, every text, every email. If someone's impersonating me, we'll be able to prove it. Phase 2 happened Friday afternoon at Murphy's Diner, the unofficial gossip central of our town. I made sure to arrive during the lunch rush, when the place would be packed with people who knew both me and Lisa. I sat at the counter and ordered coffee, knowing that within minutes someone would ask me about the divorce. I didn't have to wait long. "Danny," said Mrs. Patterson, the neighbor who'd called Jake about the police cars. "How are you holding up, dear?" "I'm doing okay, Mrs. Patterson," I said loud enough for nearby tables to hear. "It's been hard learning that my wife was having an affair, but I'm trying to focus on moving forward." "An affair?" gasped Mrs. Henderson from the next stool. "I thought this was just about the paternity test." "Oh no," I said, shaking my head sadly. "The affair's been going on for 2 years, with her law partner Marcus Hendricks. They even have an apartment together downtown, paid for with money from our joint account." The diner had gone quiet, everyone straining to hear the juicy details. "The worst part," I continued, "is that she's been telling people I'm unstable and threatening. Someone's even been sending fake text messages from my phone number to make me look dangerous. The police are investigating it." Mrs. Patterson's eyes went wide. "Fake text messages? Who would do such a thing?" I shrugged. "Someone who understands technology and legal loopholes. Someone who benefits from making me look bad." By Friday evening, the story had spread through town like wildfire. Lisa's narrative of me being an unstable, threatening ex-husband was crumbling under the weight of evidence and public opinion. Phase 3 was the nuclear option, and it happened Saturday night at the Riverside Warehouse, an abandoned building on the outskirts of town where Jake and I had arranged to meet Lisa, Marcus, and Karen for a final discussion about the divorce terms. The warehouse was perfect for our purposes. Isolated enough for privacy, but public enough that no one could claim anything illegal happened. Jake had set up cameras in advance, hidden but recording everything. Lisa arrived first with Karen, both of them looking nervous but determined. Marcus showed up 10 minutes later, trying to project confidence but failing miserably. "This is ridiculous," Lisa said as soon as I walked in with Jake. "Meeting in some abandoned building like we're drug dealers or something." "I thought it was appropriate," I said calmly, "considering how much dirty business we need to discuss." Marcus stepped forward, trying to take control. "Look, Danny, we're prepared to offer you a fair settlement. $50,000 in cash and you can keep your shop. In exchange, you sign away all parental rights to Tommy and agree to a non-disclosure agreement about the circumstances of the divorce." I laughed. "50,000? For a house worth 300,000 and a business worth twice that? You must think I'm stupider than I look." "The house is in your mother's name now," Lisa said smugly. "And the business won't be worth much when word gets out about your threatening behavior." "What threatening behavior?" I asked innocently. "You mean those fake text messages someone's been sending? The police traced those, by the way. Turns out they came from a burner phone registered to a fake address. But the credit card used to buy the phone, that was real." Marcus and Lisa exchanged a nervous glance. "Karen," I said, turning to Lisa's sister, "you want to tell them, or should I?" Karen's face went white. "I don't know what you're talking about." I pulled out my phone and played a recording. It was Karen's voice, clear as day. "I bought the burner phone like you asked. Are you sure this is going to work?" That was Lisa's voice responding, I said as the recording continued, discussing how to frame me for sending threatening messages. Pretty clever plan, actually. Too bad you used your real credit card to buy the phone. Lisa was shaking now, her lawyer composure completely gone. "You can't use that recording. It's illegal to record someone without consent." "Actually," I said, "Massachusetts is a 2-party consent state for private conversations, but this recording was made in a public place, specifically the courthouse parking lot, where there's no expectation of privacy. Perfectly legal." Jake stepped forward, his intimidating presence filling the warehouse. "But you know what's not legal? Filing false police reports, perjury, fraud, conspiracy." Marcus tried to run. Actually tried to sprint toward the door like this was some kind of action movie. Jake didn't even have to chase him. He just stuck out his foot and sent Marcus sprawling across the concrete floor. "Going somewhere?" Jake asked pleasantly. "This is kidnapping," Marcus yelled from the ground. "False imprisonment." "No," I said. "This is a conversation. You're free to leave anytime you want. But if you do, copies of everything we've discussed tonight go to the police, the State Bar Association, and your law firm's senior partners." I walked over to where Marcus was picking himself up off the floor and handed him a manila envelope. "What's this?" he asked. "Your resignation letter from Hendricks, Whitman and Associates," I said, "along with a confession about your affair with Lisa, your embezzlement of client funds to pay for your apartment, and your conspiracy to frame me for making threatening communications." Marcus opened the envelope and went pale. "I never embezzled anything." "Really?" I pulled out another set of documents. "Because according to these financial records, you've been billing clients for work you never did, using company credit cards for personal expenses, and charging the firm for hotel rooms during your affair. Your partners are going to be very interested in this information." Lisa finally found her voice. "You can't prove any of this." "I can prove all of it," I said. "Bank records, credit card statements, hotel receipts, witness testimony. I've been building this case for 3 months, Lisa. While you were busy planning my humiliation, I was documenting yours." I turned to address all three of them. "Here's what's going to happen. Marcus, you're going to resign from the law firm and leave town. I don't care where you go, but it better be far away from here. Lisa, you're going to sign divorce papers giving me full custody of Tommy and keeping your hands off my assets. And Karen, you're going to confess to the police about the fake text messages and hope they don't decide to press charges." "And if we don't?" Lisa asked defiantly. I smiled and pulled out my final trump card, a thick folder full of photographs and documents. "Then I release everything. The photos of Marcus with 3 different women, including his secretary and a client's wife. The financial records showing Lisa's been stealing from client trust accounts. The evidence that Karen's been helping them both cover their tracks. All of it goes public." I opened the folder and spread the contents across a dusty table. Photos of Marcus at casinos, hotels, restaurants with various women, bank statements showing suspicious transfers, email printouts discussing their schemes. "Jesus Christ," Marcus whispered, staring at the evidence of his own destruction. "The best part," I continued, "is that I don't even have to break any laws to destroy you. Everything here was obtained legally. Public records, private investigator reports, financial documents I had legal access to as Lisa's husband. Your own arrogance and carelessness did the rest." Karen started crying, actually sobbing like a child who'd been caught stealing cookies. "I'm sorry," she blubbered. "Lisa said it would just be a small thing, just to make you look bad in court. I didn't know it would go this far." "Shut up, Karen," Lisa hissed, but it was too late. The confession was out, and Jake's hidden cameras had caught every word. Marcus was studying his resignation letter, his hands shaking. "If I sign this, what guarantee do I have that you won't release this information anyway?" "You don't," I said simply. "You'll just have to trust that I'm a better man than you are." Which, considering you've been screwing another man's wife and stealing from your clients, isn't exactly a high bar. The warehouse fell silent except for the sound of Karen's sniffling and the distant rumble of traffic on the highway. Lisa looked around desperately, like she was searching for an escape route that didn't exist. "This isn't over," she said finally. "I'll fight this. You'll do exactly what I told you to do," I interrupted. "Because the alternative is prison. For all of you." I walked toward the door, then turned back for one final statement. "You wanted to humiliate me, Lisa. You wanted to take everything I'd worked for and leave me with nothing. But you forgot something important. I'm not the same man you married 10 years ago. I've learned to fight dirty when I have to." I paused at the door. "Oh, and one more thing. Tommy's birthday party is next month. You're not invited. The annual Winter Festival was the biggest social event in our town, held every year in the town square with hot chocolate, ice skating, and a community bonfire. It was the kind of Norman Rockwell Americana that brought out everyone from grandparents to teenagers, all bundled up in winter coats and pretending to enjoy the freezing weather. This year, it was also going to be the stage for my final act of revenge. I arrived early, carrying a large cardboard box and wearing my best smile. The festival committee had asked me to say a few words during the evening program, something about community resilience and moving forward together. They had no idea what they were actually going to get. "Danny," called out Mayor Peterson, a rotund man who'd been running our town for the past 15 years. "Good to see you, son. How are you holding up?" "Better every day, Mr. Mayor," I said, shaking his hand. Looking forward to sharing some thoughts with everyone tonight. The crowd was already gathering around the makeshift stage, families with children, elderly couples, teenagers trying to look cool while secretly enjoying the festivities. I spotted several faces I recognized. Mrs. Patterson, Detective Morrison, my old friends Brad and Mike, who were carefully avoiding eye contact. Lisa was there too, standing near the back with Tommy. She'd been keeping a low profile since our warehouse confrontation, but she couldn't resist the town's biggest social event. Marcus was notably absent. Word around town was that he'd taken a sudden job opportunity in California. At 7 o'clock sharp, Mayor Peterson took the stage and began the evening program with his usual rambling speech about community values and winter traditions. When he finally called my name, I walked up to the microphone carrying my cardboard box. "Thank you, Mayor Peterson," I said, my voice carrying clearly across the square. "And thank you all for coming out on this cold night to celebrate our community." I paused, looking out at the sea of faces, some curious, some friendly, some suspicious. In the back, I could see Lisa tensing up, probably sensing that something was about to go very wrong for her. "You know," I continued, "this past month has taught me a lot about the importance of truth, about how lies can poison a community, turn friends against each other, and destroy the trust that holds us all together." I opened the cardboard box and pulled out a stack of papers. Many of you have heard rumors about my divorce, about accusations that I was unstable or threatening. Some of you may have even believed those rumors. I looked directly at Brad and Mike. I don't blame you for that. When someone you trust tells you something, it's natural to believe them. I held up the first document. But tonight, I want to share the truth with all of you, the whole truth, backed up by evidence and facts. Lisa started pushing through the crowd, probably trying to get close enough to stop me. But Jake appeared beside her, his massive frame blocking her path. "This," I said, holding up a photograph large enough for the crowd to see, "is a picture of my wife Lisa and her law partner Marcus Hendricks leaving the Riverside Motel on December 15th. They'd been meeting there twice a week for 2 years. A murmur went through the crowd. I pulled out another photo. "This is a bank statement showing that Lisa used money from our joint account to pay for an apartment downtown where she and Marcus conducted their affair." The murmur grew louder. I could see people pulling out their phones, some recording, others probably texting the drama to friends who weren't there. "And this," I said, holding up the fake text messages, "is evidence that Lisa and her sister Karen created fake, threatening messages from my phone number to make me look dangerous and unstable. The police investigation confirmed that these messages came from a burner phone purchased with Karen's credit card." Lisa was shouting something from the back of the crowd, but her voice was drowned out by the growing buzz of shocked conversations. Now, I know some of you are thinking, "Danny, why are you airing your dirty laundry in public like this?" I smiled and pulled out one final document. Because 3 weeks ago, at Christmas dinner, my wife chose to humiliate me publicly by announcing that my son wasn't mine and that she was taking half of everything I owned. I looked directly at Lisa, who had stopped trying to push forward and was now standing frozen in the crowd. She wanted to destroy me publicly, so I figured turnabout was fair play. I set down the microphone and picked up a manila envelope from the box. Inside this envelope are copies of all the evidence I've shared tonight, plus a lot more. Financial records, photographs, witness statements, police reports. I'm going to leave it here on the stage for anyone who wants to take a look. I picked up the microphone again. You see, Lisa thought she was dealing with some dumb mechanic who would roll over and take whatever punishment she decided to dish out. But she forgot something important. I've lived in this town my whole life. I know everyone here, and everyone here knows me. And when you mess with someone's family, their livelihood, and their reputation, you better be prepared for the consequences. The crowd was completely silent now, hanging on every word. Marcus Hendricks has left town permanently. Karen has confessed to the police about the fake text messages and is cooperating with their investigation. And Lisa... I paused, looking directly at my soon-to-be ex-wife. Lisa is going to sign divorce papers that give me everything I'm legally entitled to, plus full custody of Tommy, plus a written apology for the lies she's spread about me. I pulled out one final document and held it up. This is a non-disclosure agreement that Lisa signed yesterday, agreeing never to discuss the details of our marriage or divorce publicly. But here's the thing about non-disclosure agreements. They only work if both parties sign them. I tore the document in half, then in half again, letting the pieces flutter to the ground. I never signed it. The crowd erupted. Some people were laughing, others were gasping in shock, and a few were actually applauding. Lisa looked like she wanted to disappear into the ground. So, there you have it, I said, my voice carrying over the noise. The truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Lisa wanted to take half of everything I owned? Well, she can have half of nothing because I'd rather burn it all down than let a lying, cheating, manipulative woman destroy what I've spent my life building. I set down the microphone and stepped off the stage, leaving the manila envelope behind as promised. Within seconds, people were crowding around it, eager to examine the evidence for themselves. As I walked through the crowd, people patted me on the back, shook my hand, and offered words of support. The same people who had been whispering about me just hours earlier were now treating me like a conquering hero. I found Tommy near the hot chocolate stand, looking confused and overwhelmed by everything that had just happened. "Hey, buddy," I said, kneeling down to his level. "You okay?" He nodded, but I could see tears in his eyes. "Are you and Mom really getting divorced?" "Yeah, we are," I said gently. "But that doesn't change anything between you and me, okay? You're still my boy, DNA test or no DNA test." Tommy hugged me tight, and for a moment, all the anger and revenge and manipulation faded away. This little boy was the only good thing to come out of my marriage to Lisa, and I wasn't going to let her destroy that relationship too. "Can I still live with you?" he asked. "Absolutely," I said. "Your mom and I worked that out. You'll stay with me, and she can visit whenever she wants." As we walked toward my truck, I saw Lisa standing alone by the bonfire, her face illuminated by the flickering flames. She looked defeated, broken, like a general who'd just watched her entire army desert to the enemy. For a split second, I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. Then I remembered Christmas dinner, the fake text messages, the lies she'd told our friends, the way she'd tried to turn everyone against me while stealing everything I'd worked for. She'd wanted to play hardball. She'd gotten exactly what she asked for. I loaded Tommy into my truck and drove home, leaving Lisa standing alone in the cold, surrounded by the wreckage of her own making. Tomorrow, the whole town would be talking about what had happened at the winter festival. The story would spread to neighboring towns, then probably end up on social media, maybe even make the local news. Lisa's reputation as a respected attorney was finished. Her relationship with Marcus was over. Her scheme to take my assets had backfired spectacularly, and her plan to turn the community against me had blown up in her face. She'd wanted to destroy me publicly, Instead, she'd destroyed herself. As I tucked Tommy into bed that night, he looked up at me and said, "Dad? I'm glad you're my dad, even if we don't have the same DNA." "Me too, buddy," I said, turning off the light. "Me too." I walked downstairs and poured myself a beer, then sat in my living room looking at the Christmas tree that was still up, its lights twinkling in the darkness. 3 weeks ago, Lisa had tried to destroy my life in front of this same tree. Tonight, I'd returned the favor in front of the entire town. The best part? Everything I'd done was completely legal. I hadn't broken any laws, hadn't physically harmed anyone, hadn't even technically violated any ethical boundaries. I'd simply told the truth, backed up with evidence, and let the community decide for themselves who was telling the truth. Lisa had taught me an important lesson. If you're going to play dirty, you better make sure you're the best player in the game. And in this game, I was the undisputed champion.